Okay, hey, what's up, guys? I thought I would jump in here and do a reaction video. I've never done one of these before. This guy, I think his name is Cosmos. He made a video about why people have fun ganking, and he is an actual ganker. And I thought, well, you know what? I think it's cool. And credit to this guy for actually laying it out and making a video and trying to directly address these questions. Now, as it turns out, I don't think he actually answers the question about why ganking's fun. And just as we go through this topic, be on the lookout for all manner of straw men. Like, is ganking allowed? Is ganking against the rules? Should Reds expect you to be ganking? Like, of course it's not against the rules. Of course everybody should expect it. Of course it's allowed, but that doesn't explain why you're doing it. It doesn't explain what the value is that you get out of it. But let's go ahead and jump into the video.
Ganking okay? If you ask the majority, they would say no, which is
That's false. The majority would not say it's not okay. And in fact, most people I know go out of their way to emphasize there's nothing against the rules about ganking. It's totally allowed. It's totally permitted. Nobody's saying that you're doing something wrong. I shouldn't say nobody. I mean, occasionally people try to argue that it's somehow a rule violation. But I think the vast majority of people understand that no, it's well within the rules.
understandable. But after beating the game PvE-wise, ganking for some players has become a medium to have fun, and it's not necessarily used for malicious intentions. Mage and Rage have
So it's not used for malicious intentions, yet every clip we see after they kill the guy, they throw shit on his corpse and they teabag him. I mean, I suppose it depends on what you mean by malicious.
terrorized the lands between for age after age. Their preys like squirrels running away in fear, but only to get caught by a sharp edge of steel or a blue cannonball.
I mean, it's kind of weird, honestly, that they have names for themselves, Rage and Mage. Like they've got this whole backstory worked out for why they gank. Actually, it's kind of funny because I had somebody ask me for my lore on my invader character, and I had no idea what they were asking about. And it was like this whole part of the game I didn't know anything about. But now I'm realizing that gankers have lore too.
Some players say they would gank others to teach them a lesson. Like, if a regular invader is cheating, ganking, in the eyes of some, would be a good whooping lesson. So,
Okay, that obviously makes absolutely no sense. You would not gank to teach cheaters a lesson. Cheaters are what, like 1 in 300 invaders that come into your world? It doesn't make any sense that you would operate in that way. It would be like me saying that I invade because occasionally hosts cheat and I want to teach them a lesson for cheating. That makes no sense.
so that he can stop using cheats or glitching his way out of a sticky situation. This was highly demonstrated in one of our one-time famous gank video of a streamer you can see here.
One-time famous video. Let's see here. Okay, it looks like the I Can't Win Chainsaw 3.1k views. I mean, that's certainly a respectable showing. I wouldn't put it in famous territory. I might call it like moderately well known or you may have heard of. Famous is probably pushing it a bit. I mean, for what it's worth, I agree. I don't like glitches in these games.
That's a nice invasion.
Mage and Rage still lurk in that place, waiting for their next victim, sharpening their weapons and scaling their strength.
I mean, look at these guys. These are not inexperienced players. These are guys who understand the PvP. They know what they're doing. I mean, they've got offhand hand axe and main hand halberd. These are good, strong setups. And obviously, I don't know their soul levels. I don't know if the Phantom is over leveled. Seems like a pretty good bet that he is, but I don't know that for sure. Like these are competent PvPers. They're not noobs. These are guys who have experience with the PvP in the game and are probably good enough that they could go and invade, but instead they choose to gank. And I think some of us are entitled to wonder why.
Am I a ganker? No. Is ganking fun? Yes.
That's a bit puzzling. He's not a ganker. yet he finds ganking fun. I'm not quite sure how he puts that together.
The game allows ganking very easily, and I think it's one of the few ways some players can gather around and have some fun.
Okay, yes, ganking is allowed. That's totally true. But why are you doing it? He says, I'm doing it because I want to have some fun. Well, of course you want to have fun. Everyone wants to have fun. If I was going and poking myself in the head and you said, hey, Amish, why are you poking yourself in the head? And I said, God damn it, because I want to have some fun. That doesn't answer the question, not remotely. I have to explain to you why poking myself in the head is fun. He has to explain why he finds ganking fun. What is it that he enjoys about this?
Especially if it's a small circle of friends. Most gangs have no serious PvP skills. What does that tell you? The game is years old now.
So it is true that most gankers do not have skills, and I think it's actually a great way to get acclimated to the PvP. If you're new to these games, if you've never played, I think ganking is a great way to get started, but I wouldn't do it for very long because you'll develop a bunch of really bad habits and you'll crutch on the gank in ways that you won't even realize until the gank is gone. And suddenly you'll realize how much of an edge the gank was giving you. But this guy is clearly not that. He's not inexperienced. I mean, look at this. He's got drawstring rock grease on here. He's got a halberd and an offhand hand axe with flaming strike on it. I mean, this is a top setup. This is a really good setup. In fact, maybe somebody in the comments can let me know, but I think some tournaments actually ban this setup. Not suggesting he shouldn't be using it or that he's doing something wrong by using it. I don't mean to suggest that at all. I mean only to suggest that it is a top tier setup. Like, this is a guy who understands the PvP. So what's the fun in running these reds down?
Now, PvP is dead, and what is left is first tip, some few casuals that wanna gather, lure some reds, and win against him. It's purely for fun and not for other goals. They are casuals that wanna have some fun.
So it's fun, but why? Why is it fun?
Mage and Rage found the optimal target, the glorious prize and magnificent trophy. A runner invader who after many losses on their hands have decided to use a red tactic, run from the gun. He will prove.
Yeah, so there's a big shocker. You've run the guy into the ground a couple times, so he's gonna run away. Absolutely. I mean, it's the only sane choice. It's really the only option that he has. Like, Elden Ring is not a game where you're gonna fight two players in the open, especially two players who know what they're doing, who have decent setups. Like, unless you're a total scrub who has no idea what you're doing, the invaders just can't fight you out in the open like that. It's just too difficult. You do too much damage. Running away is the only option that he has.
Prove to be slippery, fast and agile, but will betray other Riz to that end. So really, is ganking other Riz justified? In a game.
So here we go again. Is ganking reds justified? Well, of course, it's in the rules. Like, it's not a rule violation, so you don't need to justify it. You need to explain why you find it fun.
Where the host can invite his friends and control the rhythm of the match, choosing whether to allow other Riz to enter or not, and where everything spills into the benefit of him.
I mean, look at how little damage the PvE is doing. I'm assuming these guys must be in standard new game, which means they planned this from the beginning. Like, when they made these builds, they had to leave a boss alive in Limgrave so they could come back and gank here. And they've chosen this area specifically because the PvE does absolutely no damage. Like, these guys could easily instead choose to play the levels through and go through New Game Plus and fight invaders along the way. It would still be pretty easy, but it would at least be moderately challenging. There would be some risk that you're gonna die. I mean, look how little damage the PvE is doing to these guys. It's like nothing. It's like it's not even there.
I would say it's not about justification, rather ability. The host.
It's not about ability either. I mean, ability is basically justification. Can you do it? Do you have the ability to do it? Yes, yes, yes. We all already know that. But plenty of things you have the ability to do. Why do you do them?
Can and the red cannot. It's that simple. The host lures, asks for reinforcements, and has the upper hand in every way, and the red has no choice that if he wants to play the game, then he should abide by the host rules. It's just the way it is, man.
I mean, that's true to an extent. Obviously, any red that invades has to kind of abide by the rules of the game. But it's interesting because that same justification or rationale you're giving for why red should abide by the rules, you're mocking the red for running away, but shouldn't you have exactly the same attitude toward the red? Shouldn't you say, hey, well, that's within the rules and that's what we're giving him the incentive to do. So no surprise that he would choose to do that. Instead, he talks about him mockingly and dismissively.
Mage and Rage encountered a wild rogue, and they decided to give the marathon player a chance of redemption. But he does not even want to prove himself. He just wants to keep on running. See?
Yeah, I wonder why he would choose to run away from two hand axe halberd builds.
Sealing this poor soul's fate to doom. The Blood Team, Mage and Rage, waited for too long, and they decided, with them the Lone Wolf, that the fight may ensue. It was a massacre. Ganking is one way of playing PvP, and if ganking was an issue, then it's a necessary evil, as most invasions are that of encountering ganks, and that can tell you a very important note. Most people, against the norm belief, play, choose, and enjoy this method of bullying PvP.
Okay, so first of all, yeah, ganks definitely contribute to the invasion economy, and I'm glad they're there, but it doesn't follow from that I understand why gankers choose to do it, or that I have to respect what they're doing or anything like that. I mean, I'm glad that they're there, at least ganks in general. Some of the really try-hard ganks, I'm not so sure how I feel about those. Definitely have a right to do it, but I think we got our first clue as to what this is really about, because he mentions bullying the invaders. We'll come back to that in a bit.
Imagine Elden Ring without ganking. Bland, dead, and almost no invasion to even go through. It's not me justifying ganking.
So he's talking about how boring the game would be for invaders without ganking, but what about for you? What do you find entertaining? Like, you're being so noble and sacrificing for us invaders by ganking and giving us something fun to do. So what do you get out of it? What is it that's fun about it for you?
But rather analyzing why it's important and part of PvP since Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 3. The Blood Team got the Lone Wolf bad, but someone had to tell him.
I mean, listen to how like giddy and joyful they are at running all these guys down. And I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but to me, this is why they gank. It's to grief and annoy and harass and make other players miserable. Like, that's why they find it fun. That's what's enjoyable about it. When you don't enjoy yourself, they do.
Right and left, you ganking goblins! Have ye not learned respecteth thy enemy? Thou shalt taste my blade. Thou shouldest play in respecteth ways. Die. Why people gank? I will try to provide a myriad of reasons of why people choose to play in this aggressive manner.
Okay, great. We're gonna finally get some reasons why people gank. Let's pay attention.
Where it can lead to being an outcast, yet some would say that this is the beauty of it.
Alright, so let's deal with these reasons in turn. Let's start in the upper right. So, the only way to PvP co-op, that is absolute horseshit. There's tons of ways that you can PvP co-op. You can actually play through the levels and try to beat the levels. You can go into the arena and do 2v2s. You can get on a mic with your friend and you can both try to invade in the same area. There's tons of ways that you can have fun with your buddies playing PvP. And of course, nobody's saying you even have to PvP. There's other ways that you can play the game. The idea that, hey, if I want to play with my friends, this is the only way I can do it. No, that's not true at all. He says it's not boring, but of course that just begs the question. Why isn't it boring? What do you find fun about it? Death of PvE, I assume he means like, I've already beaten the game, so what more is there left for me? It would just be repetitious to fight the PvE. But if you want to talk about repetition, my god, man, these ganks are just running a red down one after another. Like, how monotonous can it possibly get? In fact, I've run ganks myself, not for very long, but I've done it, and it's boring. You just frame trap invaders, and there's nothing that they can do, and you just get to nuke them. It's pretty boring.
So, what about
In fact, the fact that he doesn't think that's boring is revealing. So more on that in a moment.
The silent death of PvE. After many moons has passed and after everyone has finished the DLC, people are starting to lose interest in the game and they want their fast fix, and those of Elden Ring, some would go to the Colosseum and try out builds, but many, and I say many, go to First Tip. Not boring as Colosseum.
So he says the Colosseum is boring, but hanging out in First Step, hanging out in Limgrave in the same area over and over, running down ganks, that's not monotonous, that's not boring.
Colosseum, you can't interact in the open world and you are only restricted to play with or without your friends in a small round area with a timer, whereas in Ganking it's more fluid, natural, and players can get together and play, witnessing the beauty of Elden Ring landscapes and even incorporating its trainee into the
So witnessing the beauty of the same area over and over and over, no. Well, more to come on that.
their skills. Isn't Elden Ring supposed to be challenging? A game like Elden Ring is challenging for sure, but its PvP without the current state of ganking would be as easy as pie. Ganking has made PvP hardcore in my opinion, and only true red invaders can take that challenge. Activity. Ganking has a lot of activity. As you lure others to fight them with your pals, you will reach a moment where you are getting multiple invasions with too many scenarios and too many possibilities, which maxes out the joy of playing PvP.
So it's pretty funny and pretty ironic that this guy is actually hectoring Reds about the need to stand up and accept the challenges and the rigors of Elden Ring while he is playing the game in super easy mode. He's made the game as easy as possible. He's playing in Limgrave, where the threat of the PvE is effectively zero, where the enemy's attacks essentially tickle him, where he only is fighting one or two Reds at the same time, and he gets to team up on them with his buddy on a mic, but wants to lecture the rest of us about the need to stand up and take what the game has to offer. Interesting.
No other solution. In my humble opinion, ganking or playing with your friends against Riz is the only way to co-op in Elden Ring, specifically after finishing the game. As simple as that. They signed up for it. A red invader should not...
Yeah, again, with the you signed up for it. Yes, of course, that's true. But I can sign up for something, and it doesn't follow from that I have to like every single aspect of it. If I go to McDonald's and I buy a cheeseburger and it comes out and maybe the bread is moldy and I complain about it, they're not going to say, hey, you signed up for it, you ordered it. That doesn't mean every permutation of everything you could do is acceptable or people have to like it. And yes, of course, Reds should understand and expect that dealing with tough ganks is part of the deal. But I thought this video wasn't entitled why Reds need to buck up and accept it. It's you're supposed to be explaining why you're ganking. Why are you there? What are you getting out of this experience?
Complain about invasions. You are very cute and wholesome when his casuals doing ganking, carrying blasphemous blades and wearing Radon armors, but when the bull goats busts in, you are going to cry about it? It's a choice that is empowered by game design, and even...
Oh, okay, so the framing of, hey, Reds, yeah, you're fine with it when it's the easy ganks, but what about when it gets hard? So even the so-called easy ganks are not that easy, especially in Elden Ring. Yeah, the guy, the Kevin in Radon armor, he's not much of a threat himself, but you get 3 or even 2 of these guys, they do so much damage, and the frame traps abound, so even 2 players can be a serious threat, and 3 very, very difficult to deal with. Even if they're very inexperienced and bad players, it's still a challenge for invaders in this game. It's not like Dark Souls 3. In Dark Souls 3, a good player really didn't have much of a problem with inexperienced ganks, but in this game you definitely can, certainly more so than in DS3. But again, this guy, he's not inexperienced. He knows what he's doing. He and his friend both know what they're doing. So yeah, you're putting Reds in a situation that's almost impossible to win. That's why these guys get blocked all the time. That's why they have 7,400 different alts, because they have to keep making alts because they keep getting blocked by everybody.
even encouraged. People choose to gank because there is no restrictions on ganking, and Reds have to do invasions to face any challenges that may come up. Are Reds expecting flowers when they invade other people's worlds? Ganking
Again, it's not about expecting flowers or what Reds are expecting. It's why are you doing it?
is not ganking. What
Look at him like two-shot that night.
What do I mean by that? When hosts choose to keep the Taunter's tongue on and Reds go flying into their world, in a case where there is two Reds, then it's not ganking, rather a fair fight. And
Okay, that is absolutely ridiculous. The idea that a 2v2 in an invasion is a, quote, fair fight. I mean, let's just go through some of the obvious reasons that's not true. 1, you're on a mic. 2, the host often has ruined health. 3, you have no friendly fire against each other. 4, you can summon overlevel phantoms. 5, you get to communicate on a mic. I mean, the reasons are basically endless. A host has an enormous advantage against Reds. They can't coordinate anywhere near the same way, and they don't get to choose their teammates like you do.
also, Red invaders may get offered a 1v1 by a formidable gank, further showcasing that ganking in these scenarios isn't ganking. And
Okay, yeah, so you might get offered a 1v1. So let me tell you about what this so-called 1v1 means. It means if they think you're a bad player that they can rub out with just one of them, sure, they may on occasion decide to do that, but it's almost always a bad faith invitation. It's a fake duel. If the host is beating you, then sure, it's a 1v1. But the moment you get the upper hand as the invader, you can be damn sure you're going to get blindsided by his phantom, who's going to say, hey, what do you expect? It's an invasion. So it's a heads they win, tails you lose sort of situation. And plus, I mean, I've invaded countless ganks. The percentage of times that a dedicated ganker actually is engaged in 1v1s, it's almost never.
there are many other examples where ganking is not ganking.
We have two Reds and none of them want to play.
So 2 Reds and none of them want to play. And let me say, never underestimate, guys, the effectiveness as an invader of running away and hiding. Like, this is the thing that gankers hate more than anything. They hate it when you run away. I know when in the latter days of DS3, I was doing a lot of woods invasions on my non-twink build, and I decided to go on PS4, and PS4 was just full of unscaleds. And unscaleds at meta are bad enough, but unscaleds at like SL40, oh man, they can like two-shot you, and it takes you 15 or 20 attacks to kill these guys. So the fights are just essentially unwinnable. And so I would take to running off into the swamp and hide just to waste their time. And they would usually disconnect within a minute. Like they can't stand the boredom of not having Reds to run down. So absolutely do run away, do hide, try to regroup with other Reds if you can. But if not, just waste their time. Like if you have nothing better to do, trust me, it's like the most annoying thing that you can do to them.
Mage and Rage kept looking for the runner, but he hides as good as a bat in a cave, or a black ant on a black
I didn't know that bats in caves were actually adept at hiding, so I learned something.
rock in a black night. But yet again, he shows up, and this time, the blood team is determined to get their prey. Let the hunt begins. The blood team is astonished by them fast legs on this rare sort.
Of course,
They can't even catch up on him, and so it will be a long run until the fox decides there is nowhere to go.
Follow him, Zakaria, follow him, yes!
We can define ganking as when the host decides to hunt for Reds instead of playing PvE, accompanied by his phantoms. What are the most famous and dangerous ganking spots? It's 2, First Tip and Sewage Pre-Mog Boss Area. Are gankers straight noobs? I said it before, the majority of ganking squads are noobs, but
so that is true. The majority of gankers are noobs, and again, in the case of noobs, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. It's a great way to get your feet wet and learn about the PvP, and it makes total sense for the noobs to do it. But again, this guy is not a noob. He knows what he's doing. So hopefully we'll get some insights here.
But not all of them. Many people who disagree with ganking resort to the pre-notion idea.
So nobody, quote, disagrees with ganking. They just wonder what motivates you. Why do you do it? Like, what's the value that you take from it? And they think they know, and they think it says something pretty ugly about you. But let's see.
That gankers are total noobs in 1v1 when they decide to get back at them. Yet, this is not the full truth, as some gankers are natural duelists or invaders that go berserk sometimes.
Okay, the idea that a ganker is a, quote, natural duelist is preposterous. There's no way. So first of all, I doubt anyone is like a natural duelist. It's a skill that you develop, and when you gank, you don't develop skills like that. Like ganking has some skill, not very much. It has a little bit. There's the coordination aspect to work out, all the frame traps that you can impose on players. Like there's some things to learn, but you are not going to become a good duelist by ganking. You're not going to develop any of those skills. And the simple truth is, unless you're doing other things on the side like dueling and invading, you're never really going to build skills because you just get to crutch on the gank the whole time.
And decide to hunt for raids in packs, but that does not make them unworthy opponents in 1v1.
Yeah, it actually pretty much does. I don't know any committed ganker that was ever worth a damn in a 1v1. Now, I have seen people who are really good who gank on an occasion. That certainly happens. People stream snipe, or they have a stream, or I know sometimes I was at Pontiff when we had players coming in. So it happens, but it's definitely the exception, not the norm.
Favorite ganking setups: a bleed or what pata for chasing, bomb bow and golem arrows for range, Istok for an offer of 1v1, and for armor, absolutely the fattest, most damage negating metal thing in the game. Is it ethical, guys? When it comes to ethics, many people
Nobody's asking if it's ethical. They're asking why you're doing it.
despise the heck out of ganking, and the people
Nobody despises ganking. They just think that you're probably not much of a person because it says a lot about you that you choose to spend your time this way.
who are involved. So, it's from some Red's perspective, it's not ethical, yet players can do whatever in this game. So it's not really a matter of ethics, rather ability. Most gankers are friends and get together once in a week for some quick fun, and not to try hard or spend 50 minutes spacing. What can Reds do?
Oh, not to try hard. These guys are trying very hard. I mean, look at their builds, look at their setups. These guys are very focused on what they are doing. This isn't casual for them. This isn't, I mean, they are focused on running these Reds down. This isn't the whole like, oh, it's just a casual hangout thing. I don't buy that at all. In fact, we're going to probably end the video here pretty soon because I don't think there's very much more that's interesting here. But the truth is, I can't see any other appeal of ganking other than griefing and being toxic and aggravating other people. It's not for the challenge. There's no challenge to it. It's repetitious as hell. Like, what is the value that you take from it? If I'm open to alternatives, if you come to me and you say, Amish, here's why I do it, and here are the reasons it's fun and it has nothing to do with being toxic or griefing, I'm ready to listen. Like, I would love to hear your explanation. But absent any kind of real explanation, that's really the only conclusion I've got. In fact, to me, it seems borderline sociopathic.
The Red Invader signed up for whatever might come as soon as he enters the world of the host. It might be he will face some noobs or highly toxic ganking squads. The Red, if he can't dance in a fire pit like that, then he might do what I usually do. The solution to a very bad case of getting mauled by a highly toxic gank. Lose and take it like a chill dude.
So I do agree. Like if you get ground up by a gank like this, there's really no solution other than shrug your shoulders and move on. Optionally block them if they're especially toxic. But yeah, I agree.
Never out and save some face. Fight them, try to win, but never resort to hate mail or toxicity if the other side did not do that when you lose.
Okay, so definitely agree. Don't resort to hate mail. I completely agree with him about that. But for him to lecture all of us on toxicity, I mean, I've been watching the same video you guys saw, all the shit throwing and the teabagging. So it's sort of funny then that he's going to lecture Reds about toxicity.
If they did not send hate mail, you should never send hate mail, and you should treat them as the game intends, respectfully. Can you hear it? They are close now, and the fox knows his roads are soon to be dead ends. Their laughs are filled now with berserking euphoria, and their dim deadly eyes now flames that howl and fidget with pointy claws. The fox even knows it's the end. Before the great finale.
Okay, so the last bit of this is just him doing an interview with his co-op buddy, where he just makes some of the same points. In fact, I don't even think the interview's in English, so there's subtitles for it. I'm not even going to bother playing it, but I guess to wrap this up, credit to this guy for making the video. And I seriously, I'm glad that he made the video. I'm glad that people are talking about this. But I would like to see somebody take a meaningful shot at explaining what you're actually getting from the experience. What are you enjoying about it? What's fun about it? Because for me and the players that I know who are experienced at this game, they just find it boring. We don't have some moral objection to ganking. We don't think it's against the rules. We just think it's boring. And for anybody to be out there plying their ganking trade night after night, week after week, in some cases game after game, there must be something that you're getting from that experience that the rest of us don't. And the thing that it looks to me that you're getting from the game is the ability to bully other people, to grief people, similar to even twinks at High Wall in Dark Souls 3, which interestingly often end up being a lot of the same people. I don't think it's a coincidence that in Dark Souls 3, the most toxic gankers were also the most likely to disconnect. I think you're fundamentally getting something different from the game than I'm getting, but I'm here ready to be convinced otherwise. If somebody wants to explain why you enjoy it, what's fun about it, I'd love to hear about it. So guys, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll leave a link to the original content creator's video here in the description. So if you want to go watch the whole thing, feel free to do that. Thank you for your time. Take care.